What's up, y'all? It's your girl Sang, and today we're going to be talking about another YouTuber. So I watch a channel from a guy called Anton Daniels, and he has another channel called The Millionaire Morning Show with Anton Daniels. Recently, he was actually on Dr. Phil for an episode where they were talking about, I guess, having children or population control, something like that. And it actually made it into an article on Fox News, right? Look at this. It said, people should pass a test to prove they're income worthy of having kids, Dr. Phil Guest argues. I don't believe that poor people should be having children, YouTuber Anton Daniels declared. Yo, you know what? He's not wrong, man. He's not wrong. Y'all remember that Michael Jackson song? He's like, if you can't feed your baby, yeah, don't have a baby, yeah, and don't say maybe, hey, if you can't feed your baby, hey. Y'all remember that? That's from like the 80s or something. So he's not wrong. He's not wrong right now. You know what I'm saying? Oh, they got a clip. Okay. We're going to watch this clip together. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And we're going to see what he has to say in this clip.
But more importantly, I think that it is important to acknowledge that the people that have the majority of the kids are the ones that shouldn't be having kids. And then that becomes a burden on the people that actually have resources, which we then start to say, take more resources from people that have, and then we become a socialist society.
Put an IUD in, a copper IUD is effective for 10 years, it's inert.
Have you ever walked in a grocery store and seen a lady with a bonnet on her head with 8 kids walking behind her? You think that she's being responsible? You think that she's really taking into consideration what she's supposed to do responsibly? You think that she's not on Section 8 housing? You don't think that we paying for her to house her kids, who's probably going to grow up and steal my wheels off my car?
Yeah,
I mean, it's the reality. I'm not here to tell people what they want to hear. I'm here.
You saw, hold on, y'all saw the reaction back here? My man started laughing. He was like, woo. She got her hand. She was like, ooh, ooh. Hold on.
Here to tell the truth.
How did we get to the wheels on you?
Because the people that are having kids are some of the worst in society, and when you put them in an environment and they have to be raised without the resources in order for them to be able to thrive, often at times they become the ones that we have to take care of. Whether it be the prisons that we build for them or the social services that we have to create for them, and they do not become more educated and do things differently, they breed more. That's what happens.
I mean, I can't really disagree with him too hard, but that's just a clip. We're going to get into the article and see what the article has to say about it, okay? So it says, Dr. Phil hosted a heated debate on overpopulation. Okay, so I was right about that. Tuesday, with one guest declaring that poor people should not be allowed to reproduce. The talk show host introduced YouTube content creator and youth mentor Anton Daniels by showing clips of him explaining his views on procreation. I don't believe that poor people should be having children. Having children when you don't have money creates more problems for the kids and society at large. And let's be honest, it's the middle class and more importantly rich people that are now responsible for paying for poor people's children, he said in the video footage. I know it's an unpopular truth, but I believe that every person should pass a test proving that they're income worthy prior to having kids. Ooh, my man was on it. I'm not shocked though. If you ever watched his content, he has said that numerous times in a lot of his live streams. So I'm not shocked that he said it at all. But these people obviously don't know who Anton is. So they're shocked. They were shocked in the audience. In front of the live audience, Daniel said, it is important to acknowledge that the people that have the majority of the kids are the ones that shouldn't be having kids. And then that becomes a burden on the people that actually have resources. He claimed that the redistribution of these resources leads to America becoming a socialist society. Later in the show, as panelists debated over whether some forms of long-term birth control, such as a copper IUD, could help people control their reproduction more responsibly, Daniel suggested that those type of people would be too irresponsible to care in the first place. Oh, and this is where we get to the clip where he said what he said. After a woman who grew up in a Russian orphanage, tearfully objected to his rhetoric, Daniels spoke to her directly about how he grew up in inner city Detroit across the street from a crack house and has seen the horrors of poverty firsthand. All I see right now is the victim Olympics. I don't feel sorry for you. I don't feel sorry for anybody. And you know why I don't feel sorry is because I see this every single day in the communities that I serve. Dr. Phil also responded, quipping that his own family was so poor that we couldn't pay attention, and I didn't wind up a criminal. I didn't wind up being on the government rolls. You can't just sweep people away all with one fell swoop and just say because you're not privileged as a child or your parents were privileged, that means you shouldn't exist. I mean, okay, yeah, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't exist, but what he's saying is that the struggles that the child goes through. So, for example, a lot of the times you'll hear parents who struggle, don't really have the money, they'll say that they love their kids and they would never change anything in the world. They wouldn't make it different, and they give everything they have to their kids, and they try to do their best and yada, 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 right? Those same kids will grow up. It doesn't matter how the kid turned out. Those same kids will grow up and be like, okay, yes, you know, I loved my family and my mom did as much as she could, but I hated how we grew up. We were poor. I would get teased for not having certain things, and it was a struggle, and I would never want to do that to my children. So a lot of times, not all the times, trust me, not all the times, but a lot of times if you talk to these kids that grow up in those environments, they will grow up and be like, yeah, not my child. So their path is either I'm not going to have kids unless I'm financially in the position to have it, or I just won't have kids at all. That's usually what ends up happening if you talk to a lot of people who grew up in that situation. My boyfriend grew up in that situation, and we've known each other since 4th grade, right? His family obviously wasn't on the same level financially that my family was as we were coming up. We were middle class, they were struggling, right? Him and his brothers have all said at one point in time, we don't want kids to grow up in the same circumstances that we had to deal with. And honestly, as they grew, they kept true to that statement. They did a good job of keeping true to that statement. My mom, there was 12 of them. 2 died before I was ever thought of. So technically 14. There's technically 14 of them. And the way they grew up, the older kids came back home with their kids, left them. My mom then had to parent their kids, which was weird because they were about like the same age. And it was a struggle. You could never have anything on your own. You could never do what you want. Any little bit of money you got had to go towards the household because there was not enough money to sustain the household, right? And she made up in her mind, she's like, I'm never living like this. If I ever have children, they're never going to go through what I went through. And I didn't. Like, when she had me, I was able to do everything and have everything she never could have even dreamed of as a child because she made sure she was in that position to do that. So, like, Dr. Phil, come on, my guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Daniels answered, you are an anomaly. Later adding, the majority of the people that grow up like you described, they end up in a bad situation. Then we need to do something to put them on a different track, Dr. Phil replied. I mean, we could bypass a lot of this. Nobody's saying that they should never have kids. They just need to be in a better position to have kids. You know what I'm saying? That's all it boils down to. If you are living in poverty and you barely make $15,000, $20,000 a year, first off, that's not enough to sustain one person. And if that's what you and your partner are making combined, and now you're pregnant, and you want to keep having more and more kids, because I know a lot of people from me growing up, I know a lot of people where they're just like, I'm going to keep living like this because I get money from the government. We all know that that little bit of money from the government still ain't enough to do anything. So these kids are still being raised in poverty. All because the parents don't want to do anything. Now, I'm not saying everybody's like that, but there's a lot of people where they subscribe to that lifestyle, which is horrible. Because the kids shouldn't be raised in that environment. There needs to be limits, I swear, on everything. There needs to be limits on everything. You shouldn't be able to live off of the system forever. There needs to be time limits. There needs to be things in place. You in poverty now. Okay. How about we put a system in place like you in poverty, you happen to have a child. Okay, you get the government assistance, but in the same breath, the government puts you in a program where it's like, hey, we gonna help you go to school for a degree where you can start making more money, or a trade school where you can go to school for a trade and make money in that sector. Something, right? And they follow up with you constantly. So maybe like every month they check in and be like, what do your grades look like? How's this going over here? Oh, okay, you're done with school and getting your certificate now. Let's get you placed in a job. And they start placing you in places, right? And then maybe after like 6 to 8 months of getting your checks and stuff on there, they be like, okay, you should be good now. And they have you on a financial plan. Like, hey, stack your checks up. We're going to keep paying your rent. And in the meantime, make sure you keep your money saved up so you can start looking at housing or apartments so you and your kid can get up out of here. And they keep tabs on that too. They be like, all right, we need to check the checking account. Okay, the money is growing, blah, blah, blah. There needs to be a program that does something like that, right? Because the goal isn't to stay in poverty. It would be great if everybody moved up at some point. I'm not saying you got to be rich to have kids, but you shouldn't be dead broke with your whole life goals like, yeah, I'm never going to get a job. This is it for me. I'm just going to keep siphoning off the government. It shouldn't be that either. Something needs to be in place, like really solidly too, where all of this works. There's so many systems that's messed up in the US, like for everything. There's just so many messed up systems that need to be reworked and done correctly. So these won't even be major issues, right? Then we won't be sitting here talking about overpopulation and if poor people should have kids or not. That wouldn't even be a thing. You know what I'm saying? In the same breath, because I know somebody going to be like, rich people shouldn't be having multiple kids either if they're not going to be in a household. And I agree with that too. Like, look at Nick Cannon. My man has money, but he has multiple broken homes because he can't be in every situation. Now, if he had all these kids under his roof with one woman, that's a different story. But that's not a good look either. There's so much stuff that has to change in the U.S. There's so much. But that being said, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Once again, that's a YouTuber. His name is Anton Daniels. And you can find, like I said, you can find him right here on YouTube. Go check his channel out. He talks about a lot of financial stuff. Good information. I like his channel a lot. But with that being said, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss when I drop a video. And until next time, you already know who it is. It's Sang.